The show can't start until we crack open a bottle of Revelton. Whether it's their crisp, clean vodka, the bold spice of their rye whiskey, the rich smoothness of bourbon, or the original honey whiskey that started it all, every pour is a taste of craft and passion straight from the heart of Iowa. So pour yourself a drink, settle in, and get ready to relax, laugh, and enjoy the show.
Hey, it's Andrew Downs. I'm proud to support Three Beards Media, and I would love to work with you. If you need merchandise for your company, organization, band, softball team, whatever, I can help. From name brand apparel to promotional items, large orders or small, online stores, and more, I can help your brand stand out. AKC Marketing is local, based in Johnston, and we are an employee-owned business, so our costs are low and our turnaround times are fast. But most importantly, we give you personal service to make sure you get exactly what you're looking for. Email me at andrew@akcmarketing.com or find me on social media, and let's make some cool stuff together. Now sit back and enjoy this Three Beards Media podcast.
All right. Good evening, everybody, and welcome into another episode of Locks and Longshots. That is the new name of this podcast. We used Barber's Best Bets as a little bit of a temporary name to get things going here, but we have shifted gears and we are going to call this Locks and Longshots going forward. So appreciate you sticking with us here through a little bit of a name change. So let's just dive right into it tonight and take a little look back at last week and see how we did. UFC 320 was this past Saturday night, and we took a stab at the three big fights of the night. We went with Yuri Prochaska moneyline, Merab moneyline, Ankalaev moneyline. All three of those guys were the favorites. Well, Yuri came through in a big way. He was down 2 rounds out of the 3 rounds. And in the third round, he knocked out Khalil Roundtree Jr., absolutely cold-cocked him. It was a brutal, brutal knockout and a great win for us. So we will take that Yuri moneyline money. And then the Merab Sandhagen fight went the 5 full rounds. Looked like at times that Sandhagen could have been knocked out, could have been submitted. Merab was just dominant in that fight. He had I don't even know how many takedowns. I think it was the most in one fight in UFC history. That's his thing, is he takes guys down to the ground. He gets them on the ground. He wins the fight on the ground. He's known more as a wrestler, but he can stand in and punch with guys. Sandhagen did really well to take that thing the entire distance. I thought that was very impressive showing from him, even in a loss, to go the full distance with a guy like Merab. And I thought his takedown defense for Sandhagen wasn't too bad, but Merab just keeps coming at you time and time again. He's relentless. So he's beat O'Malley twice. He's beat Sandhagen now. I really don't know who in that weight class is going to challenge Merab next. It could be, I'm not sure who it could be really even. Merab is just a different beast, a different animal. So Merab money line was a win for us there. And then Ankalaev money line, Pereira was out for revenge. He got it. He went all in round 1, and he knocked Ankalaev out in round 1, just buried him within the first minute. So very kind of anticlimactic ending to the night there. for us with Ankalaev going down. I guess I should have seen that one coming. Payne is just too good of a fighter to stay down for long. And yeah, he really did have vengeance on his mind, and he went for it. And I've never seen him go for it like that before. Usually he takes a little bit of time to feel guys out, but he must have seen something on tape from their last fight and just said, okay, I need to press the issue. Kind of like what Ankalaev did to him, except Pereira knocked Ankalaev out rather than the other way around. So, yeah, it was a great night of UFC. If you've never watched UFC before, I think that would have been a great one to jump in on. Although there will be other great fight cards this year and rolling into next year. Looking forward to all of the UFC action that's to come our way. So we went 2-1 in UFC 320. We'll keep track of our record. We're 2-1 all time in the UFC. But let's take a look at college football, where we had a little bit of a rough week again for the second week in a row. We took a little bit of a flyer on ISU money line. They lost outright to Cincinnati. I think the injuries kind of caught up to the Cyclones there. I also think that, really just certain people on the team didn't play well. Mostly the defense, I felt like, played very soft. So that really did us in against Cincinnati there. Sorry, Cyclone fans. I know I picked your team and then they lost immediately. Baylor minus 6.5, bit of a weird one there. They pulled out the win against Kansas State. They did weird things like go for 2 and got it when you really probably shouldn't be going for 2. Otherwise, this game could have gone to overtime and we could have cashed in overtime. So thank you, Baylor, for doing weird things and winning the game in regulation to give us a loss on the board there. And then Michigan, man, I don't know what happened. They were actually down to Wisconsin in the big house early and stormed back to win, but did not put up nearly enough points for us to cover the 16.5-point spread there. And then Vanderbilt, Alabama, I was surprised about the lack of points from the Bama side. Alabama dominated that game. They won with ease. They even picked off Pavia multiple times, but didn't convert it into touchdowns like I thought they would. They were converting into touchdowns earlier in the game and kind of slowed down over the course of the game. But that's how that goes. So our over 56.5 did not come close. But TCU minus 13.5, bad beat if you had Colorado. It was a sort of a last-minute touchdown when TCU was already up by 7 late with the ball. They elected to keep throwing it, scored another touchdown through the air, kicked the extra point. Colorado couldn't score after that. So TCU minus 13.5 was a good win or a bad beat, depending on how you look at it. And then Wake Forest plus 6.5. That was a good win for us. Maybe we should have taken a chance on the money line to make ourselves have a better week because Wake Forest won outright against Virginia Tech. So that put us at 2-4 this week. Glad we backed the Demon Deacons there. They were able to get us our second win of the week. So 2-4 this week. We're 11-14 overall in college football through 4 weeks. So we've got to get back on the right track this week. And I think I've got all the right picks to do it. And let's start with Friday night football. We're going to have 2 picks on Friday night. And the first game is a game that I think is going to have some college football playoff implications, especially for the mid-majors. And that's USF North Texas. And when you look at this game, you've got Byron Brown on one side. And I was really impressed with South Florida in their first game against Boise State. They beat a ranked Boise State. They crushed a ranked Boise State in week 1. They also beat Florida, the Gators, in the swamp. That was an impressive result. They got crushed by Miami, So that is a little bit of a knock on their belt there. But they've bounced back in a big way. North Texas is 5-0. I'm not sure what to make of this North Texas team because they've had some close calls against some not so good teams, namely Western Michigan, a 33-30 battle. They do give up quite a few points. South Florida lights up the scoreboard. So does North Texas. They look to light up the scoreboard every chance that they get. This over-under is set at 66.5 points. And I like the over. I think it's too low. I think these teams are going to be really going at each other when they're on offense, trying to light up the scoreboard, trying to do something to impress the college football playoff committee too, I think. So if you like to pick a side in this game, I would lean towards the South Florida side. But I would like to see points in this game. Give me the over 66.5 USF North Texas. Then Rutgers, Washington. Big Ten likes to do this Friday night football thing. I don't know why. I hate it, but let the high schoolers have their night. But here we are. Rutgers is traveling to Washington. Now, normally I would say this is a bad spot for an East Coast team, but Rutgers had a bye week before this game. So they've had a whole other week to adjust to kind of that time change, to get some practice in. And I think Rutgers is going to have a little bit of an edge because of that. They're a 10.5 point underdog. I like the Rutgers side in this one. Washington got beat down by Ohio State at home 2 weeks ago. They had to travel to Maryland last week. So they're undergoing a little bit of a time change of their own, going to Maryland last week and having to play a close game with Maryland, then coming back home and facing what I believe is a dangerous Rutgers team. Calais Manis, KJ Duff, Ian Strong. Those three can certainly light up the scoreboard well enough to, I think, help Rutgers kind of stay around in this game. Damon Williams and Jonah Coleman are going to do their thing too. And I do think that Washington will ultimately win this game, but I do think it could be a little bit of a slow start for the Huskies. That's why I'm rolling with the Scarlet Knights. All right. We didn't cash on the Alabama over last week. I might have overrated Diego Pavia, what he did to Alabama last year. But I don't think I'm overrating Bo Pribula and what he's done for the Missouri Tigers. He has a couple of NFL wide receivers at his disposal. So does Alabama with Jeremy Bernard and Ryan Williams. And Ty Simpson is playing like a Heisman candidate right now. In fact, he might be the leader. It depends on how you feel about Mendoza or Dante Moore, and we'll talk about them in just a minute. But I think there's two good quarterbacks in this game. I think Simpson's a little bit better than Pribula, and I know that Alabama has the offense to put up points. I know that Missouri has the offense to put up points here. Over is 51.5. I like the over 51.5. All right, let's move it on to probably the biggest game of the week, maybe one of the biggest games of the year here. I think it could ultimately decide a lot of things for the college football playoffs, the Big Ten championship. Indiana on the road at number 3 Oregon. Indiana, a 7.5 point underdog. I like the Hoosiers. I like backing the Hoosier side of things in this one. I know that Oregon's coming off that emotional win at Penn State. I know that Indiana is coming off that win against Iowa. It's a big week for the Indiana Hoosiers. This is going to be a great game from the standpoint of the quarterbacks as well. Mendoza versus Moore, two guys that could find themselves in the Heisman conversation as well by the end of the year. This could decide who gets one of those top 4 seeds in the college football playoffs, who is the top seed in the Big Ten regular season. There's just all kinds of implications for this one. But I like the Hoosiers, and I think Mendoza has been lights out this year. And we know that Indiana team can put up points in a hurry. I think they're getting a little bit of a disrespect with this line. Give me the Hoosiers plus 7.5. All right. Penn State. We talked about Oregon beating Penn State. Penn State, what in the world was that? Going on the road and losing to winless UCLA. You would think I don't have a lot of confidence in them, but they are a 21.5-point favorite against a terrible, terrible Northwestern team. I mean, awful. And it's in State College, right? In Beaver Stadium there. So give me Penn State to cover this spread. I think they're going to bounce back nicely. They're going to bounce back in a big way. Penn State does this. They disappoint on the national stage. They maybe follow that up with a questionable game afterwards. That was the UCLA game. And then they come out and they're on fire and they roll. So I think they got to roll this week because next week on the 18th, they're headed to Kinnick. And then they're headed to Ohio State, I believe. So it's a couple of big games after this for Penn State. They got to get right here in this spot. I believe they will. So give me Penn State minus 21.5. We rolled with TCU. We've rolled with TCU at multiple points this season. In fact, this is the fourth week in a row where we're taking the Horned Frogs. Minus 1.5 on the road against the Kansas State Wildcats. This is a little bit of a deceiving line because Kansas State is 2-4. You would think that TCU, a team of their record and their stature, would be favored by a bit more. But alas, they are not. Maybe this is a little bit of a trap and I'm walking into it right here. I'm okay with that. I'm totally okay with walking into a trap. I'll take my chances with TCU, Josh Hoover, and Sonny Dykes over Avery Johnson. I don't know. I feel like they pulled out all the stops last week against Baylor to try and pull out a win. They came up short. But give me TCU to win on the road. Big game week here. We got another one with USC taking on Michigan in the Coliseum out there in Los Angeles. USC is a 2.5-point favorite over number 15 Michigan. Always find it interesting when the home team, who's unranked, is favored over the road team, but I'm going to ride with the home team. I think the time zone change and just kind of the result from last week against Wisconsin, who I believe is truly an awful football team. A team like Michigan, who's ranked, should have dominated that game in a fashion that they did not. USC has the road loss to Illinois on their record. I think Illinois is a decent team. I think USC can do enough to stop the run, and that's really what this game is going to come down to, because that is Michigan's bread and butter. They really have not proved anything in the passing game. Jaden Maeva has, and I like Bryce Underwood. I think he's going to be great at some point, but I think Maeva is better right now. Going to roll with him for the USC minus 2.5. Red River rivalry this weekend. Everybody's going to be all over this one. John Mateer is out. I do not have a lot of faith in the Texas Longhorns, considering that they just laid an egg in the swamp. But I'm going to take my chances and roll the dice with Texas to win outright. All right, Arizona State, Utah. I've seen some people in the comments calling me out for picking against the Sun Devils. All right. You win. I'm going to back the Sun Devils this week. Just to spite all of you. Arizona State plus 5.5 against the Utah Utes. All right. Last, final pick of the week. Auburn's hosting Georgia. I know it says number 10 next to Georgia. I'm not impressed. I thought A&M is a better team than Georgia. And Auburn really kept it close with A&M on the road. They're hosting Georgia. I think Jackson Arnold, Cam Coleman, those guys are playing well. But also Hugh Freeze is kind of getting on that hot seat. He's brought in Jackson Arnold and Cam Coleman and all these guys to try and save his job. This is a save your job, kitchen sink kind of game for Hugh Freeze and the boys. So give me Auburn plus 3.5 at home against the Georgia Bulldogs. So just to recap, USF North Texas over 66.5, Rutgers plus 10.5, Alabama Missouri over 51.5, Indiana plus 7.5, Penn State minus 21.5, TCU minus 1.5, USC minus 2.5, Texas money line, Arizona State plus 5.5, Auburn plus 3.5. You can book it this week in college football. We'll go ahead and take a break, and when we come back, we'll talk all things NFL.
Making great tasting bourbon requires the perfect combination of ingredients, conditions, and time. The longer it rests, the better it tastes. Revelton Distillery's new single barrel bourbon is made from 80% corn, sourced 100% from Iowa farmers. And unlike mass-produced bourbons, each barrel of Revelton's single barrel bourbon is unique, proofed on when it tastes best. As they like to say, it'll be ready when it's ready. And to ensure the highest standards of quality and flavor, owners Rob and Christy Taylor oversee the production and bottling. Every single barrel. Iowa born, Iowa aged, Iowa bottled. Try the new single barrel bourbon from Iowa's own Revelton Distillery. ReveltonDistillery.com.
Gentlemen, let's be honest. Finding the perfect gift for your wife or girlfriend isn't always easy. You want something thoughtful, stylish, and unique. And that's exactly what you'll find at Styled by JJ Boutique. Julia Bradshaw and her team strive to be your go-to boutique for casual, boho, and chic clothing and accessories, helping women elevate their style one piece at a time. Located right here in Johnston, Iowa, Styled by JJ brings trendy, high-quality fashion that boosts confidence without breaking the bank. So, if you're looking for a gift that says, I get you, instead of I tried, head to Styled by JJ Boutique. Because nothing makes her smile like feeling beautiful. Styled by JJ Boutique, where style meets confidence. Visit our Johnston location or shop online at styledbyjjboutique.com.
All right, welcome back in, everybody. And let's flip to the NFL, where sadly, the Jake Browning experiment is over. The Bengals trade for Joe Flacco. So we can't pick on the Bengals quarterback anymore. Sad day for us. Even though we went 1 for 2 on Jake Browning props this weekend, he did go over his passing yards. He did go over his passing touchdowns this weekend, but he did it all in garbage time against Detroit because they were getting absolutely pounded. But he threw multiple touchdowns. He threw almost 300 yards. He did throw us an interception. That's the one that we did get. But sad to say that experiment is over. Thursday night football. I think we may just have to be done because we had Rams minus 5.5, and they lost outright to the Mac Jones-led 49ers. Mac Jones and the 49ers on the road against a Rams team that I thought looked great up to this point in the season, winning outright, and Mac Jones getting injured during the game and still pulling out the win. That's kind of the things that Thursday Night Football is made of. Just a lot of fluky things happen on Thursday night, and probably need to stay away. Took a little bit of a flyer on a Terrence Ferguson anytime touchdown. That was not smart. We took the Giants on the road. buying into the Jackson Dart hype, and then they lose to Spencer Rattler and the New Orleans Saints, which is, I don't even know what to say about that. But Jackson Dart and the boys letting us down. Justin Fields, thank you for garbage time, passing and rushing yards over, hit with ease. 2-5 week, 9-9 and 1 push. They're all time in our NFL ledger. So 500, looking to get back on the right side of it. I think we've got the goods to get back on the right side. And let's start with Baker Mayfield and the Bucs hosting the 49ers. Maybe we shouldn't be betting against the 49ers, but I like Baker and the boys and the way that they have been playing. Lately, they're only a 2.5-point favorite, and it's unknown if Brock Purdy will play. Mac Jones might play, but he's injured. He may have some kind of an injury designation with him, even if he does play. I don't think that's a good recipe against a Bucs team who looks like they might be either the second best or the best team in the NFC at this point through 5 weeks of the season. And Baker's playing his way into some sort of MVP conversation. I don't understand the low number here. I think they're giving a lot of respect to the Niners, who are 4-1, but I think it's kind of a paper tiger 4-1. Give me the Bucs -2.5. Cowboys Panthers over 49.5. I like it this week. If you've seen the Cowboys defense play, you'll know why. If you've seen Bryce Young play, you'll know why, because I do think the Cowboys defense, for all their faults, could take advantage of Bryce Young, but everybody's doing that these days. And the Cowboys offense has been sensational. I think CeeDee Lamb has a chance to play, although I'm sure they might hold him out at least another week or two. But even so, the Cowboys offense is really humming, can really move the ball. And Dak playing his way into the MVP conversation this year too. Ravens are a 7.5-point underdog right now this week. And that is mainly due to the uncertainty, I believe, around Lamar Jackson's status. I'm going to take the Ravens plus 7.5, but that's tentative based on the status of Lamar Jackson. I mean, if you can grab this at 7.5 right now, and then it's announced that Lamar is going to play, I think that's a steal. But he's playing that Rams team. I also think that maybe the Ravens are just due to get things right a little bit. And the Rams backslid last week against the Niners, and they've got to take the show on the road against a Baltimore team that's going to be desperate for a win, for everything. It's going to be, throw out all the stops to try and get a win in Baltimore on Sunday. But I think we can sneakily take the Ravens at plus 7.5. Next game I'm looking at, big one between the Chiefs and the Detroit Lions. Chiefs are 2-3, yet somehow they're the 2.5-point favorite over this Detroit team who their only loss is against the Green Bay Packers in week 1. And I think maybe just the offensive line and the other pieces for Detroit was just taking a little bit of time to gel and just trying to get their feet wet, but because they have been outstanding for the past 3 weeks. They've been lighting up the scoreboard against anybody and everybody. I know that the Chiefs defense plays well, but this is a good matchup for the Lions, I believe. And I don't really understand the Chiefs' love. So I'm going to go for the Lions outright here on the money line here in week 6. And then for the player props for this week, I'm going to ride with Josh Allen because I think he needs a bounce back game after last week against the Patriots. And what better way to bounce back than to play the Atlanta Falcons in Atlanta in a dome that's conducive to points. The Falcons defense is also conducive to points. The Falcons also want to push the issue against the Bills defense. That's a Monday night game. I think it's one that could lead to a lot of points. between both of those teams. I'm going to ride with a guy who can be the MVP this year. Josh Allen, anytime touchdown. Josh Allen over passing and rushing yards this week. Go ahead and take it to the bank. That will do it for me for this week. Appreciate all of you listening as always. Have a great night. Always practice responsible gaming, and we will see you back here next week for more Locks and Long Shots.